What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Sports Now. Today I want to talk to you about how scouts actually judge our prospects and their overall talent compared to others. It's called using the 20/80 scale, and it's something that a lot of people don't know. Even those in dynasty leagues don't usually look at this deep enough. And I want to jump in and just give you a simple explanation of how this stuff works. So first I'm going to jump off right into the internet. This is MLB.com's top prospect list. It's their top 100. You could go right now and find all this fun stuff. So when we actually dig into, this is Wander Franco, #1 prospect in baseball, we see these tools and we see the overall number here, and we see it says scouting grades / report 20/80 grading scale. Okay, well, if you're in a dynasty league and you see all these names and you just want to take the top guy off the list, that's fine. But you do want to start digging into these tools in here, which I'm going to make another video about the tools and how that relates to fantasy, so look forward to that. But for now, I want to talk to you about this 70 grade and how it actually works. So just a little background. Before this 20/80 scale existed, scouts would basically go on, I don't want to say feel, but it was more of an opinion. It was subjective. It was, hey, I think that Spencer Torkelson has great power. Well, is great power 40 home runs? Is great power 20 home runs? You say great power, I say good power. What's the difference? So this actually puts some numbers to a value, and now we can start comparing prospects with other prospects. So this overall 70, you look at number 2, Adley Rutschman, 65. One thing you'll notice is that all of these go in increments of 5. It's just an easier way of tracking. So you'll never see a 61, you'll never see a 64. It's always in increments of 5. And the funny thing too is these aren't like Madden, so that's the very first thing I want to say. It's this 20/80 scale, so 80 is the highest. So all of us Madden players see this, and we see an overall 65, and it's like, oh, that's terrible. Even if you're doing grades, it's like that's a D. That's terrible. Well, it's not quite like that here, and I'll show you why in just a second. And actually, I'm going to bring up Fangraphs, which is a good site if you really want to dig deep into some of these baseball stats. But I'm here so you don't have to read this rather long article about how this works. So if you look over here on the left, this is their graph on how the 20/80 scale works and how it translates to what that means for that player. So here is that future value that we saw, the overall rank on that 20/80 scale. You don't even see 20 down here because they're basically saying a 20 is very bad. You're probably never going to even hear of these people's names. 45 overall is generally the average. That's like an average player doing average things. On here they say if you're a hitter with a 45 overall value, then your peak is likely to be a platoon or a utility player, somebody coming off the bench, maybe playing occasionally every other day, righty-lefty matchups and stuff like that. So when we get into the top prospects, we'll look at Adley here, is that overall 65. Jump back into our graph here. 65, they're essentially saying that at his peak, they think that Adley was going to be an all-star for most of the years that he's in the major leagues. And that's really quite good. You saw Wander Franco was actually higher than that. They think that essentially a 70 overall is somebody who's going to be a top 5 hitter in baseball. I think that's high. You don't really get very many 80 grade future value players. They say top 1 or 2. I'd say peak is top 5, top 10 is like top 20, maybe top 25 hitter in baseball. So that's kind of the way that I look at hitting. If you're looking at pitching, let's go into their top 100 here and find, let's skip Mackenzie Gore. Let's go to Nate Pearson. Overall 60, okay? So overall 60 on their chart for starting pitching is they think he's at his highest going to be a number 3 starter. Personally, I like Nate Pearson. I would put him at 65 because I think he's easily going to be a number 2 or number 3 starter. His major concern is injuries. So I think that in this case, they got that wrong. They're a little sheepish on Nate Pearson. Starting pitching, you can see how difficult it is to get high grades here, because Nate Pearson is they rank him 10th overall prospect, and yet they think that his peak is going to be a number 3 overall starting pitcher on a team. So you got to be careful when you're looking at some of these prospects, because though they might grade high, you might not necessarily want that. When we're talking about relief pitching, usually in the minors, it's really difficult to tell if they're going to become a minor league or a relief pitcher or a starting pitcher. But if you do have an idea that they're going to go into that relief role, then it basically scales down from starting. If you're a 60 grade future value reliever, then they think you're going to be a really good closer. So that's kind of how they're grading this. So it's an interesting thing to look at. And one more thing I want to point out here is that if we actually go down the list to only about, 20, Austin Martin, 22. So 22nd best prospect, they have overall 55. So that's basically they're saying is that they think that Austin Martin is going to be an above average hitting player moving forward. You know, above average, maybe occasionally has some good seasons, but that's not that great for the 21st overall prospect, especially when Wander Franco is up at a 70. So if there's an opportunity to find somebody with a future value in this range, I think you really have to snag them up, because it drops so quickly. It's pretty crazy. So at its core, that's how the 2080 scale works in the scouting perspective. That's just an overall. Next, we're going to be looking at tools and how these tools, I'll go back in here really quick. We're going to look how these tools here can help you determine fantasy value. So look forward to that one coming out next, but at the basics, that's how the 2080 scale works. So that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you guys later.